All right, folks. Welcome to What's Your Story. What a great time we're going to have. And it's just another YouTube journey, another fun conversation with a dude that loves 80s stuff. Look at that. It's in the logo. It's on brand to talk 80s with a brother across the world.
Yeah.
Here we are. Let's rock and roll. Find someone else. Scuba Pete's in the house.
Hello.
From Chasing 80s Toys. How are you, my brother? What's going on?
I am doing well. I'm excited. I've been excited all day to do this.
It's fun. It's fun. It is great to get to know people more. Checking out all the toys. I'm kind of like dipping in and out of your content all the time because you guys have a ton of Masters of the Universe, Transformers, GI Joes, a sweet spot of that kind of stuff. It's just a blast. So, give everybody a little like elevator pitch on who you are and how did we kind of got to this place.
So I'm Scuba Pete, and I'm part of the triad that is Chasing 80s Toys. So that is Jeff Barker, who's in Idaho. I'm in Indiana myself. And then our other pal is Chris Miwa, and he is in the Netherlands. So we're international in this affair. But we all came together when I purchased the G.I. Joe Defiant from Jeff Barker. And I was already doing a few toy hunts with Chris because he was like, hey, anytime you want a video, let me know. I'll edit it all. And I'm like, you mean I can just be a schmo, shooting footage and being silly? And, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I'll do all that. And I'm like, yay.
I gotta hire Chris. I gotta figure out how to get on that.
Right. Everybody needs Chris to make you look so much better than you actually are.
It is the best too, because we're just nerds at heart. I just know we just like, you mean I can just do this and someone else will take care of some of the other. That would be the dream. That'd be the next step is like you get someone who can kind of help schedule all this. I can just shoot it and then just give it to someone else and they'll make the rest of it happen. I need a social media manager that tells everyone when it is. I hate all of that.
I know. It's like, I forgot Twitter. Oops.
I don't. I am the worst. Pat asked us so much for me, but he has to also just be banging his head on the table like Pops didn't put anything on Facebook this week. Pops only promoted one video on Twitter. He did 3. Like it's like I just know that's the brain. It's like, and it's what was it like to kind of like step into that world of, oh crap, my stuff's on YouTube?
It was a little mind blowing at first. I know the everybody made the joke of you're on everybody's channels, yet you have no YouTube channel.
Oh,
and
right.
Just because I have so many friends across the toy collecting community, and especially after lockdown. I mean, it's global now, right?
Yeah.
Australia, New Zealand, Japan, obviously England, and Europe. But it's the first couple streams I was on. I remember just kind of, oh, hey, like nervous twitch. I like horrible stream brain. But once you got used to that, got your feet wet. It's like me and you talking right now. It's just talking with like-minded friends and hanging out like we're at a pub having a pint and talking about our love of 80s toys and pop culture and
just being 2 nerds hanging out. We just happen to be doing it over the computer instead of being at a comic shop or at a convention or something like that. But yeah, it's awesome. What is it like trying to come up with ideas for videos or shows, or how do you sort of manage the nuts and bolts of the YouTube since there's more than one of you doing it?
So we try to have production meetings fairly often. That's a little tricky with the 3 different time zones that we're managing. So, when it's time for Chris to go to bed, Jeff's just getting to where he can be free, and I'm in the middle, like anytime works. I'm a night owl, that kind of. So we try to throw out ideas like that. I know Jeff has gotten super busy with, real life, real work, the thing that makes it so you can go buy toys. He's been nose to the grindstone. We just got to we just got to hang out down at Joe Fest about 3 weeks ago. So Jeff flew in with his wife and we all just had a big time. But So he's kind of like, I want to make a video, and I'm like, people are always asking, Jeff. I'm just telling you. And he's like, I know, but I'm like, our rule is do it if it's fun. If it's not fun and it feels like work, something's wrong.
Sure.
And Chris, he's into music, and he does cosplay on top of toys. So he's always got an iron in the fire, and so we're bouncing ideas. Like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this one. Which video do you think I ought to, launch next? And then I'm in the middle, like I'm always toy hunting. At least once a week, I'm out there in the trenches. I'm blessed to be in the Midwest with lots and lots of brick and mortar stores within striking distance. So in that regards, it's pretty easy to, video a hunt and see something new. The hard part, I think, now is coming up with what do I show next? I mean, I don't want to come off as braggadocious and all that, but I've got lots of neat things that I haven't, done a video on, and I want to. So in a way, for me too, it's a real life first and then YouTube second. And it's like, okay, I really need to do like that unboxing video. Some friends sent me a parcel from Australia the other day, and it's
some cool unboxing videos on your channel. It's really fun.
Thanks. Yeah. So it's waiting there. It's looking at me. I talk to it every night. Like, I'm going to get to you. I know there's Australian goodness in there, and I want to open it up. So,
so obviously you have this much passion. You guys are probably about a similar age of like, this was the stuff from your heyday of the 80s. Talk a little bit about that. Is there a certain, like a Christmas or birthday that kicked some of this off, or was there something that kind of is like the flag was, that's when it was planted, and ever since then it's been a passion?
I was always very lucky that my parents saved all of our toys.
Wow. Okay.
And as a kid, I played well. I played hard with my toys, but I also didn't destroy them. So if it was something with a lot of pieces, that usually didn't make it outside into the yard to get lost. I would keep that inside. But yeah, it was always, I have a younger brother. He's a few years younger than me. And so we overlapped on a lot of stuff. So you kind of see the G.I. Joe collection there in the distance. And that is a combination of both my brother and I, our childhood collections. Because, it was Christmases and birthdays. And then if you were good, while your parents were out shopping, you maybe got to, you can pick out one action figure. And you're like, yes, it's like, we're going to need an hour on the toy aisle. If it's Star Wars, be like, we promise we won't go anywhere else other than right here on the Star Wars aisle and service merchandise.
We went through every single one. We would never leave that area. We were very, very, very well disciplined when it came to action figures.
We're like, I will go through every figure on those pegs. And we have 20 feet that we will have to work through. And then you're coordinating with your brother. Hey, I'm going to get him. What are you going to get?
You both can't get Destro. That's not going to be the way to go. You gotta have a strategy. You gotta, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
well, at least you had a nerdy brother. My brother wasn't into the nerdy stuff, so it was kind of like we never got to double dip as much until I was kind of aging out a little bit. Because I'm a little bit older than you, I think. So for me, it was like, I think it was my nephew that really was in Masters of the Universe. It was like,
nice.
It'd already been out for a couple years, so it's like I kind of like got to live a little vicariously through him. How far the toys had kind of come, being a Star Wars kid.
Right.
But yeah, no, I can't tell you how many times because I was born in Indiana, and I have vivid memories of from Indiana to Texas to Florida, and it's like, oh, it's a Zare, it's an Airway. Where's the toy department?
Right. Oh, good old Airway.
Airway. I know. We would pick through every single item on the.
Yeah, I mean that was. You didn't crow if your parents were like, okay, we're gonna be running some errands, and you're like, yes.
How good should I be today? What can I do?
I was like,
what can I do? Yeah.
Even later when we got, like the mall got rolling and, you had a good indoor mall and it's like, there's a toy store in the mall. And it's like,
for me, it was Toys R Us, man. It's like, if you could get yourself in a Toys R Us, it was like the sanctuary.
We got Toys R Us very late in life around here. We had Children's Palace was the mecca biggie. And then KB Toys was in the mall. So you knew like you go into Sears and your mom was shopping or you were, with your grandparents. It's like, just remember there's KB Toys. It's like it's right by Orange Julius. If you're really good, you could work a combo. Like, all right, you can have a Frosty treat and pick out a GI Joe. Be like, yes,
yeah. I always see there. I always see the passion. Passion is there. So, you mentioned having stuff from your childhood, stuff that has survived. What's one of the treasures?
One of them is it's the Terrordrome right there from GI Joe, which is a massive. It really belongs on a Lazy Susan because it being multi-sided. But that's what my brother got one Christmas, and then on this side, is the tactical battle platform, and that's what I got that Christmas.
Very cool.
So I have both those pieces and dearly love them so. Now, Craig, he got all the Transformers. I don't want to come off like I got all the childhood toys. My brother, he wanted all the G1 Transformers, which were, to his credit, they were his anyway. He never would legally or officially let me touch his Transformers because I was so bad at doing the transformations on them. He would always, here, then, it's in robot mode.
So he kept those.
Yep, he kept all those, and he was like, all the GI Joe, go for it, dude. And I'm like, awesome. And then of course I had all my Kenner Star Wars. Interestingly enough, so you hit that time in your life where you have your own house, your own place, and your parents say that one thing to you, which is, come pick up your stuff. And you're like, okay. And they're like, all those boxes, and on them is Star Wars,
I can't believe they kept so much of your stuff. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I thank them all the time. I'm like, I'm so glad because so many of my friends that I talk to and interact with in our community, they don't have a lot of great stories like that. They got I went off to college and I came home and nothing. I was lucky I had a bed. My third nephew removed, got all my, Masters of the Universe or they went in the yard sale, that kind of thing. Just poof. I know a few guys, they flat threw them away. Like they're like, oh, we binned them.
Yeah, it's a painful give and take for me. Like I took a lot of Star Wars stuff with me when I moved out. It was only like one semester, so it didn't have enough time to get thrown out or anything happened to it. However, I didn't move all the cards, and I came back and I was like, "Where's all those boxes of cards, Mom?" Well, I put them in the shed. So I go to the shed, and she had dumped them all in one big trash bag, and the shed and the shed had leaked.
Oh no!
So imagine late 70s to mid 80s sports cards. You're like, all gone.
Oh,
I don't have any that survived. I have one comic book
behind
me on the shelf. I have one comic book. There's no cover on it, but I have the one. That's the only one that survived. So yeah, we all have those, good. So you're a lucky kid. Usually you're the only child. So the fact that you and your brother were able to have parents that kind of preserve some of that is exceedingly rare, to be honest, in this.
It really is.
Yeah.
What's even kookier is they saved so much stuff that our kiddo growing up played with toys that were ours. Mom and dad are like breaking out the Sesame Streets, Little People. And I'm like, what the heck? Where was that been? They're like, well, we were just saving it. You didn't need it,
Right.
And I'm like, this is cool.
My in-laws did that for my kids. Yeah, there was stuff that we'd go over there, and they had broken out stuff from when my wife and they were little. So there's some stuff that was made it to our kids, and then now we've taken that, like yeah, we've saved that aside for your now they'll be our grandkids, whatever. But,
exactly. Yep.
And it is fun how timeless that is, right? Have you watched how timeless that stuff is? It's crazy how beautiful it is to watch and play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm not ashamed. I get right in there. We've got neighborhood kids that we've really gotten to know. They call us aunt and uncle. That we're around that much, so it's not that weird vibe or anything. I'm down with playing in the sandbox. Let's do it. What are we doing? Or their folks will go, hey, could you mind watching the kids if we go to the movies? We'll order you a pizza. And we're like, we're in. Let's do it. What toys are we playing with tonight?
Oh, it's the best. I've talked about having grandkids and how much fun it's been. I if you didn't know the story, and sorry for those of you in chat that are listening to this premiere, but reality is, I'd gone through a couple of videos, a couple things, and they just sucked. Right. It was during She-Hulk. I don't know what it was. And I was like, I can't go home like this. So I started watching. So it was the 30th anniversary of X-Men animated series and the Batman animated series.
Oh,
so
nice.
My wife's like, just do videos. So it's become like a weekly thing of me watching and reacting to these different videos now. So I'm on like episode 40 and whatever. Right. And the thing I noticed was how timeless all that is. So now I'm sharing these cartoons with my grandkids, and they're just like zoned out. Like my wife's like, that's not the Little Rascals that they want to watch, because I had the cartoon. I said, no, it's the Power Hour with Pac-Man and Richie Rich. And they were like, oh, we don't want to watch this one, Pops. And then they didn't move for an hour. They're both like, the whole time. And I'm like, see, it's timeless. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
It's good stuff. And it truly holds up.
Yeah, it does. It really, really does. So what has been, because you mentioned the friendship thing, which I think is really one of the coolest things of doing this kind of thing. You've bonded with two guys who really share your passion. So it's almost like a constant reinforcement of that through this whole process, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Has this heightened your exploratory journey? Like, it makes you more interested in finding some weird random place to go investigate and take everybody on a journey? Or is it trying to find a weird item that maybe people have never seen before? What is part of it that kind of drives you a little bit, connecting that dot to the YouTube part?
I think one, it's finding that just weird, unique, hard to find, and I did come prepared with props, silly things like this. That's a knockoff, unofficial Mattel. That's He-Man on a seahorse.
Oh, it's He-Man. Okay, I thought this was from is this like a McDonald's Hercules toy? What is this?
It's way worse.
Oh my gosh.
That's He-Man
and some
He-Man or something. Blue briefs, and you push it down and it shoots off.
Wow, that's cool.
Kooky stuff like that. Because of having a wide and varying friendship, across the globe, I've also started to get some weird bootleg stuff. So this is from, I bought this off a friend of mine, Masters Maniac. And so this is a bootleg Battle Cat from Mexico. You can see it's
hollow.
It's hollow. Yeah. So they, they got one and made the mold and then started pouring the plastic. But empty belly. And then there's He-Man in kind of very much the Mexican flag.
I said he's colors. Like repainted. Almost like is the head right? And is the head quite right?
Let me put him out. The head's right.
It's pretty close. Yeah,
but
it's just
like the leg articulation. He's built differently than
like a wrestler model. Like a wrestler action figure instead of the
very
He-Man
much so, like
figure.
The Remco.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's crazy stuff like that that I like finding and showing off. But I'm also finding a lot of this crazy stuff because of these friendships. So my wife and I got to go. We got tickets for Star Wars Celebration in Europe, in London. That was this spring, and so It's the first time that the two of us have been to England. That's a new country for us. But the great thing was this giant community of friends. And so we went for 10 days. You know, friends here in the States are like, oh, so you're going over for celebration? Be like, yeah, which is really cool. We're excited for that. But we're more excited because we're going to get to see a slew of friends that we've made during lockdown, you know, online in this toy community. And some of them were like, oh, you're not getting a hotel, you're staying here. And you're like, no, awesome. We'll get a hotel. And they're like, nope, you can spend a couple days with us. And we're like, wow. Others, you know, they're like, we wish we could house you. It's, you know, English homes are often,
a lot of them are like flats, right? So they just don't.
Yeah, they're not mega. Like they're like, oh, I wish we had a basement like you had, Scuba. But just being able to hook up and spend the day hitting maybe a small toy shop or just their local flavor. I mean, we went all over the UK, but one of the places we stopped at was Blackpool on the Irish Sea. And a friend of mine, he gave me a European exclusive Outback. So back in the day,
cool.
Trying to get that to focus. Back in the day, there we go. Back in the day, he was only issued in Europe.
Huh.
And so he gave me that before we started our, you know, grand tour of Blackpool.
Yeah.
And Chris was like, yep, that's my childhood one. And I'm like, dude, I can't take it. And he's like, no, take it, because he likes the classifieds now, the big 6-inch scale Joes that they're doing. And I brought him a few of those, and he was like, nope, you have it. You're gonna get way more enjoyment out of it. He's just, you know, in a box at my house. And I'm like, I'm honored.
That's so cool. That is, you know, I was really blown away because I did this crazy experiment. I know some of you in chat, Pat right now is going, yeah, oh boy. I did the real Star Wars day. I did a May 25th day, all day. So I had streams, pre-records, interviews, videos, live streams. I live streamed for like the equivalent of like 10 hours. And anyway, it was basically like 16 to 18 hours of content. It was insane. Right?
Wow.
But what we found out by doing all these different kind of conversations, and as someone who's kind of lived through some of the Star Wars in real time too, you know, like a lot of people had never seen the Sears catalogs. They didn't know the story of the comic book. They didn't understand what happened during the 90s before the new movies came out with the EU and kind of the figures. And so when we were tapping this, some of the best feedback was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, I didn't see. And what's it like for you running into some of that? Because you run across, you're seeing, you know, you get excited because you're seeing, you know, Mexican He-Man. But there's got to be a Castle Grayskull video that you do, and people are like, I had never, ever seen that. And you're going to be shocked by that, because to you, it's like, oh, of course, everyone's seen the Castle Grayskull. No, some people are like, I've never seen it before.
Some people do. And I'm by no means a toy expert. I'm just a lover of toys. And so I am constantly learning from others. And I have my mind blown daily with, you know, new facts and research. You know, somebody else send a link and I'm like, oh, what? I had no idea they made that, you know. For instance, in England, they had Action Force, not G.I. Joe. They had Action Force.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. And that was an extension of Action Man, which was the 12-inch dolls, like the G.I. Joe dolls. Both companies, Palitoy in the UK and Hasbro, both came out the same year with 3 3/4-inch small scale G.I. Joes that I know and love. Neither one of them knew the other was doing that. They just saw the Star Wars market.
Yep, let's get to it.
And went, you know what? Let's shrink down. And, you know, you had the oil crisis. So it's like, plastic is expensive. Let's try to use less of it and make these smaller figures. And so learning about Action Force and Palitoy, that blew my lid. Tony from Analog Toys is a friend of mine, and I started watching his videos to learn about that. And I was just like, feed me, Seymour. I mean, I'm like a sponge, just sucking up this knowledge. And it's not something that's made it over here to the States. And large quantities, if you do catch it on eBay, it usually has a very high price tag associated with it, much like our stuff over there to a point. So these friends have helped feed the addiction. I can count on one hand some mates that buying from them or them sending me gifts very kindly, and we do that back and forth. Send each other stuff like, "Hey, yeah, you have a box going out." But thanks to them, I've got quite an Action Force collection now, and I'm so proud of it. And during our England Invasion Grand Tour, we actually went to the old Palatoy factory site, and we had a tour done by Bob Breakin, who was a Palatoy designer back in the day. We got to have lunch, but all my mates surprised me with Bob showing up at this pub after we'd been to a toy store. And I'm like, "Hey, Bob, that's Bob Breakin. Oh, he must be having lunch in the same." Like, I wasn't connecting the dots, right?
Like, oh, they got you, Pete.
Yeah, they got me, and they were like, "You walked right past him. He was sitting in the bar," and I was like, "Look, I was just happy to be in a pub. Like, let's do this."
I know. I feel like I'm gonna. I kind of found out because I'm a comic book nerd. Chuck Dixon lives in the city where I work, and I'm thinking I'm gonna get a drive-through or something. Next thing you know, it's like freaking Chuck Dixon sitting right there. I can't get him on my show. Hey, Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck, can I have a
hang out, talk about comic books for a while? Yeah, man. No, I tell you what, it is so cool to feel young again in this weird vicarious way that most people that don't, because it's like a disconnect from like the seniors and stuff that's ahead of us, because for us, with the way the pandemic changed everything and now streaming is like software, we're like, let me go find a nerd to talk to about this. Cool. And then this is because I came from more like a radio background, website writing and stuff like that was my little side hustle. And I said, well, again, credit the wife. She, it's like, just make the what's your story thing. Just deal with the nerds. Just hang out, talk about whatever you want to talk to. Introduce whoever could be watching to one more person sees Scuba Pete, or Scuba Pete's people see Pop for the first time. Who knows?
Exactly.
It's just another nerd that's like, oh, I didn't know how to find a comic book nerd, and I had G.I. Joe nerd, and yes, exactly. That's what this is, the best part of all of this.
It's so good. And, see, Jeff Barker's gonna watch this, who is a comic book nerd, and he's gonna be like,
come on, Jeff, connect with me. Let's do it. Let's do a comic talk, Jeff. We can talk comics. It's so much fun. And like you were saying with the whole backstory with the UK, I literally had to create I shouldn't create. I had it, but I had to modify my working document for all these recommendations. So there's movie recommendations and TV show recommendations and comic book recommendations. Well, Pops, I know you know this. Could you do a video on this? And that most people are like, and they've read it, and they're like, thank you so much for doing this. So maybe that's what you're doing with like the He-Man toy, where you're showing off, here's these vintage He-Man toys. People are like, oh, it's so cool, because it takes them back to that emotional connection, right?
Yep. There's definite. That's what's fun in the comments, on a video, because that's also our rule. If it's one of us, it's you're the one who has done that video. You're now responsible to answering those comments, and we answer every comment. We don't just post a video and then blow people off. We want that interaction. And so in responding and seeing those, that's what really gets me jazzed and keeps me pumped up, is the like, oh, I forgot about that, or yes, I remember that from I had that. I did I did this huge Eternia, was this massive end of the Masters of the Universe was coming to an end, but they made Eternia, which was this giant. It looks. A friend of mine jokes it's like Six Flags over Eternia, because it has a monorail that does a loop through, and it's got three towers. It just has that vibe of it belongs in a theme park, but it's considered a holy grail for Masters of the Universe collectors. So I thought, oh yeah, that's something I'll never have. Well, Jeff found it in a toy shop in Idaho. and the guy was just setting up his toy shop, and he happened to say, Jeff, you know, if you want to look in the back, I've got boxes. I'm, you know, we're not open yet, but
right.
And so he took a few pictures, and I saw parts sticking out of boxes, and I'm like, later that night, I'm like, Jeff, that's Eternia, and he's like, what's Eternia?
Wow, that's great.
And
What a
I'm
great
like,
story.
let me send you a couple of pictures, maybe a video. And I'm like, you gotta ask him how complete it is. You gotta go back. And so very quickly we struck a deal, and both of us were very happy. You know, Jeff made a little on the hustle, you know, because he was driving, I think, almost an hour to go to that shop and back to pick it up and all that. And he shipped it to me, which we you know, did amazingly again, because it's a very fragile playset. But so I do this video where I'm like, okay, I'm going to show me putting it together. And so go through all of it, and you get to the monorail track, which is the most fragile part of the whole dang thing. And I'm, you know, I've got the camera set up, and I'm starting to snap these together, and one of them just, and it's just glass. I mean, you, Chris put it in slow motion after the fact, so it's all, you know.
Yes. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, you were so, you know, nonchalant about it," and I'm like, "That's only because of the edit." I'm like, I stopped recording. I went and had a bourbon. I said a few cuss words. I had another bourbon, and then I was like, "Okay, what are we gonna do to repair this so we can keep going?" But I wanted that genuineness, because everybody talks about how fragile it is, but nobody ever. You know, they're like, this is original Eternia. The track is a reproduction because they're like glass. And I'm like, I'm actually showing you they really are like glass. Yep. And so people were like, I can't believe you showed that. And I was like, yeah, I want that genuineness, that real life. I'm just a toy nerd like everybody else.
I used to do so much editing, and then I would include the bloopers at the end, and I cut them out. And now I'm just like, I just run. The bloopers are included. They're free of charge.
Yeah, they're free.
And every now and again, I will include something either before or after, if it's something that kind of, you know, something that was trimmed around. There's one of me going, I'm just sitting here. It's like, oh, that's what StreamYard does for 40 seconds before it decides to get started. It's like me just sitting here in absolute silence. So that must be some great content for those of you watching. It it didn't show me that it was working, and then it goes, you're 40 seconds in. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, there's moments like that. So, yeah, that's the fun of this. Is this sort of like raw experience that we're able to have with some of this stuff. I haven't had that happen yet where I've done something like that live. I will admit that I have to open the boxes, not like get in them, but like cut them open. Because like one of my first ones I was doing, the day I could not get this box open. I'm sitting there for like 3 minutes of me. I will eventually get in this box. I swear. So after that,
we're still alive.
It's so ridiculously true, though. So, and I do have another unboxing coming up for those of you that are watching. If you're not a member, you want to be a member, because James Mealy sent me a birthday present, and I have it, and I left it at home. So I do not have it. Well, actually, by the time they see this, Pete, they probably will have seen that video, because I probably would have got it done. But if you haven't, you need to be a member, so you can go over there and check out the members only videos, because it's one of the ones where I will unbox things, and it is always a struggle for me. I'm always, because I'm a comic book guy, right? So like, you know, it's a knife, or you know, you're like, that's like the one that's not even like it's not like a box that's got like a space in it where you know there's bubble wrap. It's like it's you know.
Yeah, you get
a mailer. You're like, oh, okay, I don't want to accidentally jab through.
No, you've got to do surgery. You know.
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah.
Beep. Beep, beep.
Oh no! Oh, Spawn 300 goes up in flames. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It was G.I. Joe #2.
Oh my gosh. Oh, G.I. Joe. Oh, that's so funny. Do you have comics?
Joe Comics.
Joe Comics? Yeah.
None from childhood, even though that was always so we would go to Minnesota every summer to spend the week or so with my grandparents up there on the lake. And so that was always part of our vacation ritual, was go pick out, a couple comic books, go pick out a couple figures, maybe some of those like cool road games, little pinball or what have you.
Things that would entertain us.
Anything would keep you busy. I was just talking with my dad today. He goes, "You remember those Minnesota trips in the car before there was, we didn't have air conditioning? That was just literally roll the window down, and you got up to speed and you were like, oh, a breeze."
Oh, I can tell you, I'm such a child inside, Pete. My first wife, I was right out of high school. She was still in high school. She was behind me a year, but her family took me with them on this trip. And we'd stopped in Biloxi, Mississippi, because something had happened and we were going to be delayed a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in this gas station and I bought Daredevil and Captain America comic books to entertain myself.
Nice.
Which was not kosher to the first wife or the future first wife or her family. That this nerd, out of nowhere, he becomes this nerd. Like he's just a regular dude hanging out doing stuff, and then all of a sudden, I'm trapped here with you people. I'm going to read comic books. In hindsight, I wish I still had them. They were like, I tore them up too, man. I think I read them like 3 or 4 times during that because it was like, well, they're not talking to me.
Might as well dive into the story.
There we go. So yeah, Larry Hama, man, that's the G.I. Joe goat right there.
I just got to meet him at Joe Fest. He was there
so cool.
doing an appearance.
So bad.
He's a class act. He's so classy, in fact.
Yes.
He signed anything that you were going to have personalized for free. So as long as, so I've got my G.I. Joe #1, like, everybody else. And I do the Christmas story thing. Like literally I've been toy hunting, and I'm like, oh, I need to go get #1 signed, it's Saturday. Before I forget. And so I kind of walk up and I see him and he's, doing his thing and he's got his handler in front. And I just kind of stand there. I'm like, oh, sweet. This is great. And the lady goes, are you waiting for Mr. Hama? And I was like, uh-huh. And she's like, the line starts over there.
Oh, and I was like, that's the best.
And I went, oh my God. And I was like, it was down an entire aisle.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'm like, and the people in line, like I just heard Christmas Story in my head. Hey kid, the line starts over here.
Yes, that's so great. Oh, Larry,
I like Santa.
I was able to get Mike Vosberg. I need to get him back because I had a line to talk to Vosberg, who did a lot of that art. And then he kind of went over and did some of the animated work and loved doing storyboards and stuff like that. But yeah, Larry doesn't get the credit he deserves. He is a goat. He's one of those forgotten names. I need to do a whole reviews or something on that. I definitely, for sure, I'm gonna make a note to myself on that. So
he was so kind, and in that moment. And of course I'm like, to Scuba, and he was like, to who? And I'm like, Scuba, like the diver. And he goes, okay.
That's Larry. I mean, Larry's so real. Like I've met Larry. Like first off, for those of you who haven't heard me ramble on and on, shows in the I got into this in '89 with Batman, but in the '90s, all through college, into the 2000s, whatever. You go to shows, they're all like that. Everyone was like so chill, like signing everything. I remember I actually was ticked off at another fan, Pete. I went to this show one time. I was meeting Marv Wolfman, and some dude ahead of me had a stack like that.
Oh,
like, no, dude, come on, have one. Like what you need, like what you need 50 something for? This is before eBay and stuff. Right. It's like they're not certified autographs, just a show. It's just and it's like now there's so much drama. Most of them charge. You have the whole Twitter factor, which we don't even need to get into all that. Does it shock you though that we've gotten to this place where there's so much drama around these fandoms? He-Man in particular, myself included. I did a hate video about where we are on some of this kind of stuff.
It is kind of mind-blowing, but not so much in like the hate. It's mind-blowing in the seriously, if you're gonna try to do it well. Like, don't do it crappy. That's it. Just like these are beloved properties that sadly, these studios and whatever, to them, it's just another cash cow. And it's when they do it horribly,
it goes horribly.
It goes horribly, and people are going to call them out. And you know, a lot of people, I just want to just keep it positive. And it's like, I'm positive that sucks.
I mean, you can't even. I know there was even a second part to the He-Man thing. I think it was released in like 2 parts, right? And I didn't even watch the second part, the Tila series. I just didn't even watch. I didn't want to know. Do you think that we'll get the live action Masters of the Universe thing? Where because last we did a little video on, we covered. I made Stone Loki, who's one of the co-hosts on Talk Hard, sit through the Lost City, because the directors had been hired to do the Masters of the Universe. And I said, just watch this movie, and that's Masters of the Universe. I just want to watch your face. Put that together. This isn't going to go well. Is that project dead, do you think? Or do you think we're still going to get this at some point? There's just too much money on the table for someone to grab.
I think it's going to eventually happen. You've got the Barbie movie that's coming. Like Mattel's you know,
just had to go there.
It's happening. I had to, because I just saw
by the time you're watching this, guys, you will have already known that someone has probably bribed me into watching this movie.
Yep. So I think it's, you know, it's only a matter of time before the rumors become concrete, and, you know, like, here's some production photos and we're doing He-Man, and be like, oh, okay. All right.
I can't even imagine they would they're going to do He-Man and not put clothes on him. Like, I just have a hard time with just the fundamentals of dude doesn't have clothes on. Like, so
yeah,
that's what you want to do. You hate toxic men. It would be like watching Conan. You guys can't stand that.
Yeah. And that's who he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How are you going to do it? Be like, by the power of Grayskull, in a nice jacket, you know?
And I'm rather svelte today. I'm feeling the atom. Let's go out there, man at arms. I mean, it's just, I know. And it was a little, I have to admit, I was a little older.
I'm a little older. I'm a little
homoerotic elements that were in He-Man at times. Like, I was like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that part. Not all of it. Just watching that part, you're like, ooh, that part was a little odd there.
Yeah, I'd be like,
Can we play with the Transformers now?
In today's episode, we learn, be like, huh?
Well, and that's the fear, is that we'll just continue to go down this slippery slope. But I think a lot of that stuff we've stalled on some of that kind of stuff. And I think now that we have but we are recording this in the middle of July. So if you were like, that was so yesterday, that's how fast the news cycle works, folks.
Yeah.
Yes. Actors are striking alongside the writers because they have nothing else to do. So if we didn't shut everything down, now we are really shutting it down.
Now we're really
closing the door. Shutting it down, so nothing can go forward. Now I feel like the He-Man project and some of the other stuff at Hasbro, like, it'll finally stall for a minute. We'll take a breath.
Which is good. It's like, take a long, deep breath. And think about what you're doing with these cherished properties that we all dearly love, that you want us to go see. But in reality, you want to make it so everybody wants to go see it, which means nobody's going to go see it.
Yeah.
What makes sense about putting that kind of money up front and then expecting just this avalanche return, and then being like, oh, I guess people don't like G.I. Joe anymore? Be like, that's because it's not a G.I. Joe movie. What are you doing? It's just.
So I want to transition to, because I know you and Jeff are here in the States. It might be a little bit harder to get Chris involved in this sort of project, but I'm at the point now, and I'm sure you're familiar with F&T and Eric July and some of these figures that are now they're like presence at like a show, right? They're actually like have a room in a hall or whatever. Critical Drinker, those kind of people, right? But then there's also like now with the last show and a couple shows now where it's like a tier or two down, they'll get a table and they'll kind of hang out and meet people and stuff like that. what are we're gonna get a, you know, chasing 80s toys table at some point where you guys just like, you know what, let's just go get a table and hang out and meet people. And you know, I mean, to me that's a cool thing. Like you guys are in this, you know, like me, I'm just movie comic book nerd guy. What am I gonna do? So I got stickers, I got, you know, I don't have merch yet, I'm too old, I don't know what to do. One of you guys want to help me make merch, we'll do it. But you guys are like these toy guys, you're really, I mean, so it seems like a perfect situation for you guys. No,
you know, we laughed about that at Joe Fest because what was great was going like a couple of booths, and then you would run into somebody that either you knew that they're a YouTuber,
yep,
and you're like, hey, you know, Adam from Go Figure, God, you're one of my favorite Canadians. I love it, you know. And he's like, Scuba Pete, you know, that kind of. So every couple, you know, 10 feet, you were stopping and having conversations. I did have a couple people come up that I didn't know at all and just introduce themselves. And, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to bother you. And I'm like, you're not bothering me. I'm like, I put my shorts on like everybody. I'm like, let's talk. Let's do this, you know. And
scuba trunks. Let's make sure we
stay on brand. Scuba, yeah, my wetsuit. Just like everybody else.
Stand brand, Pete.
But we joked about, it would almost be easier if we had a booth with like some sofas and everybody could just come and mingle. You
sofas.
Know.
Oh my
God. And I'm like, in a fridge with
Pete, we need to do a sofa and a lazy boy with like a 1970s coffee table.
Oh yeah.
And we get like a 22-inch TV and a working Atari.
Oh yeah. And
then we're golden.
It's a little lounge. You can just, you know, take a load off, play a little Pong.
Throw down some, you know, Yar's Revenge or Jungle. You know, I think that's the way to go. Oh man,
we didn't have that, so we went up front to the hotel bar and just kind of we all just coalesced up there. Saturday night, I don't know, we're trying to figure out where we're going to dinner, and I'm like, while we were figuring out where we want to go to dinner, how about we go have some adult beverages, and you know, we can tell everybody, come down, you know, when you're ready, come to the bar. And so there was like 20 of us, and my wife was seated at the bar with a couple other gals, and so I'm just standing behind her. I've got my drink, and you know, we're having a good time. And all of a sudden, there's a guy in my ear, and he's like, excuse me. And I'm like, oh, I'm a big guy, so I'm easily in the way, right? So I kind of go this way. And then in this ear, I hear, excuse me. And I'm like, oh man, geez, I'm really sorry. You know, this is what's all going on in my head. And so I just kind of like try to snug up to the bar. And then I hear, excuse me. And I'm grabbed by the shoulder and brought in. It's Sergeant Slaughter. He's behind me.
No way, bro. Sergeant Slaughter tracked you down, Pete.
Yeah. And I'm like, because I'm friends. He knows of me. You know, it's but I'm friends, right? Yeah. He's a great guy. I know his daughter Kelly now, which is fantastic. Zazel from Australia, who's a Sergeant Slaughter super fan, flew from Australia to Joe Fest and beyond, and got to hang out with Sarge and Kelly, and so there's all this cross pollination. So I was looking for one of them, like, you know, going, no, he just happened to pick me when he was going by to mess.
You were blowing off Sergeant Slaughter, Pete. That can't not end well for you, man. You can't be like treating the Sarge like that, man. That's amazing.
Oh, so good. So it's just when you're hanging out in the pub up front, you never know what is gonna happen to you.
Yeah, this meetup stuff is a blast, and look forward to doing more of that kind of stuff. I was able to get Mrs. Pops out to one, so we'll see.
Nice.
It's not her cup of tea at all. But at the same time, she does understand that it's just different now. Things are just, the world's different, because I've been doing this kind of nerdy stuff for a while, and she's used to like the press routine and that kind of thing. But the idea that people will just come up to you, hey, Pops, and you're like, oh, hey there, who are you? And you're like, I'm Bob, and I'm like, there's like 5 Bobs, so you're gonna have to give me a little bit more to go on there. So
I'm
yeah,
Jedi
like,
Bob 4116, and you're like, oh, that
yes,
Bob.
exactly. All right, yes,
Yep.
exactly. So yeah, it's like that. So, yeah, that's so cool though. That is so cool, Sergeant Slaughter, man. That's so cool. What a
Yeah,
great
go
story.
figure. But that was
Yeah.
Joe Fest was just this big, pollination of so many YouTubers that we all know and interact with. That we was just swirl. Michael from Retro Blasting, who's a friend.
Mm-hmm.
That poor guy couldn't walk 3 feet.
So he needed a table for sure. Yeah, he's a presence. I don't know why they would not have just had him. He should have had a panel. He should have done a whole thing.
he could do a panel easily.
He really should. Absolutely.
That's why I love and respect him, because he had time for everybody. It didn't matter who it was. He was having crucial conversation the entire weekend. It wasn't just like that was a Friday night or that was a Saturday night. Saturday, he picked up right where he left off on Friday. I think he maybe saw 6 or 7 booths tops out of the entire thing, just because he would, hey, let's talk. What are you into? And I passed him many times, and just kind of pat him on the shoulder or give him a little wink,
Hang in there, Mike.
Be like,
can I bring you some food? Need a snack? Need a water? What do you need?
Like, we're going to dinner at 8.
It's different. Yeah. So that's awesome. What is the next phase for you guys? Do you guys sort of like have, I don't want to say a business model per se, because it's just weird to think of the idea that we get to go look for toys, comic books, talk about movies and nerdy stuff, and it's like a bit like people care. Like, it still makes my head. I'm like, I don't get it, Pete. I really don't. I'm like, okay, I know. All right, we do it. So let's do it.
We are monetized. We had to have that meeting. Like, okay, we're approaching those stats, and what do we want to do? And of course, Jeff and I are like, oh, Chris, that's, you're like, how do you split 30 cents, 3-way? I mean, like, that's not a thing for us. I'm like, Chris, you have that ad revenue, whatever it is, and then 6
you don't
months
have memberships yet. Why do you have
no, I don't. It's maybe something we'll talk about.
You should do it, and just you can do exclusive stuff, and you can do streams or something, and it'd be great. You should do that. That's fine. That's really actually really been cool. The membership stuff's like, it took friendships to like next level, because I do, because anytime I decide or think about doing things, I'm usually thinking about the members first. So like, let me run through all of these people first, and you have just tons of people, and you just continue by doing that over and over and over again. You just get to know them so much. It's better. Really, oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, Joker voice and Troy Bocelli and these guys, and they're just you just start to be like, oh, I call them on the phone, just like, hey man, I'm thinking about this, that kind of stuff. So but yeah, man, Pete, I think it's been great to get a chance for everybody to know you better, and you have to understand what the channel does, that kind of thing. And we got to come and hang out more often. I think is what we got to do. That's what we
definitely. This has been a blast.
It is. So, folks, all the stuff is in the description. Make sure you're connected, subbed. If you just need a chance to turn back the time machine, check out some cool toys, adventure. Like, what is it like to go on a store with someone like Pete? Like, it's a blast, by the way. He's like this all the time. This is not a show. It's not a gimmick.
No.
I got to... Pete's wife to come in the room and be like, you have no idea. It's because I'm the same way, Pete. I'm the guy that would jump the rope to go shake the hands of Joe Piscopo. It's that kind of stuff. Like, it's just
nice.
It's how we're wired. So, but folks, do that. And Pete, thank you again for your time, guys. Thank you so much for watching, being here. Comments are obviously welcome. I try to get to that. I know if you're watching this after the fact, let us know what you thought, who else we should talk to, those kinds of things. Be blessed. Make tomorrow a little bit better than today. And thanks again for watching. I am Pops.